Welcome back. Next on our agenda is reading of Resolution 2018-24. This is a resolution to approve a revised final development plan for Glenbrook North. Again, this is a resolution. Alderman Sprouse. You have a motion and a second. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. Are y'all comfortable out there now? If you think my Public Works Chairman makes a long report, you ain't seen nothing yet. So buckle up, take a deep breath. Let me apologize up front, but I've got a lot of questions and I got a lot of comments, so I'm going to rely on this notes, okay? Because I'm not smart enough to remember like Chief Bush does. Mr. Chairman, I'll start by making a motion to suspend the rules and ask Mr. Renner to come to the podium.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of suspending the rules, ask Mr. Renner to come to the podium. Please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. Mr. Renner. And again, this is just questions. This isn't an opportunity for him to sell his project or give a presentation. This is just questions, if he chooses to answer them. Go ahead, Alderman Waters.
Thank you. Good evening, sir. I want to start by going back to your comments during the April 3rd Planning Committee meeting. You made this statement, and I'll be honest with you, I'm still confused. You informed planning that this development would reduce traffic on Forest Retreat Road, Andrew Run, Glenbrook Way by 20%. But yet your plans to build 297 townhomes and condos. The townhomes will have 3 and 4 stories. All 132 condos will be 3 stories except one. You list 110 mixed-use outlets. Some of these are 2 and 3 stories. On top of all of these, you've included 8 to 10 commercial buildings. But you still made the statement on April the 3rd that you would reduce traffic by 20%. Now, in our meeting 2 weeks ago, you changed that percentage from 20 to 17% reduction in traffic. I don't know how you came up with 3% difference in 2 months, but even 17% is hard for me to believe. For the record, I've gone over your KCI trip generation comparison figures. I'll read. This handout provides a trip generation comparison between the approved September the 28th, 2005 traffic study and the current site plan for the proposed Glenbrook Village apartments. Again, this report compares the traffic study 25, that's 13 years ago, to your current development. This is in no way comparing apples to apples. I have shared your development plan along with this report with people a lot smarter than I am, and they don't buy it either. My position at this time, let's throw out all these percentages and let's secure a real, up-to-date traffic study. We cannot accept a 13-year-old traffic comparison traffic report. To me, there's no way you can come up with a reduction in traffic by 20 or 17% with all this development. I take it from your comments 2 weeks ago. You're convinced out of the 297 residential units, plus the mixed-use units, everyone will be either walking or carpooling, or as you stated, will be riding a bicycle to work and shopping. Again, in my discussion with management in the Glenbrook apartments, out of their 312 units, she tells me 50% of their tenants have children, and 90% are school-aged children, which requires 2 school buses twice a day. Their records show 450 to 500 vehicles on the property. So does this report I just read that I'm looking at right now, does it take in consideration school bus and traffic from the Glenbrook apartments? You may respond if you like.
Okay.
Thank you. I hope you will give me a minute here. First of all, and I think there's been some confusion on this, Mr. Waters. The reductions in the traffic that we talk about were from the original approved plan that is in place today, which is for 184,000 square feet of retail, to the plan that is before you this evening for the mixed-use residential and retail. These are, for the most part, some of the least impactful types of developments that you see in the country right now in terms of traffic, because much of the traffic, not all of the traffic, but a good deal of the traffic is held within the development. Rather than getting in the car and driving 2 or 3 miles to the dry cleaners, there's probably going to be a dry cleaners there. I can walk 2, 3 doors down or maybe half a block, pick up my dry cleaning and walk it home. I can go to a coffee shop in the development. I can go to a restaurant in the development. I don't have to get up and get in my car every single time. We also had them look at the impact on the schools, and the impact on the schools really is negligible. These are designed for mostly empty nest kinds of people. These are places where they've had the big house, they've had the big yard to cut, and they're getting retired or close to it like me, and they'd rather have a little less maintenance and in a place where they can, lock it up and drive away in the evenings. So this is, when they talk about smart growth in planning schools, in urban planning, this is what they're talking about when they talk about smart growth.
Okay, thank you, sir. But that does not answer my question, because I'm looking at a report here, and it doesn't spell out what you just said. And again, I'll read it to you. This report provides a trip generation comparison between the approved September 2005 traffic impact study and the current site plan for Glenbrook development. That's all I have to go on. Let me move on. Let me go to the Public Works comment about the traffic study. It reads, and I'll quote you here, number 2, traffic study will need to be updated and any improvements incorporated. Needs to be updated. Now let me read another staff comment. And I don't want to take up all you people's time by reading the whole form. I'm just going to bring out part of it. I'm sorry, are you listening?
I am, sir, yes.
Are you sure? Okay. Again, I'm just going to read part of it. It comes under the final development plan. It says they, speaking about you guys, they has stated lack of nearby residential growth even strains keeping current tenants in the Glenbrook Shopping Center. With the new proposal, commercial square footage has been reduced by 112,940 square feet, and 297 residential units have been added. Now here's where I'm confused. It says lack of nearby residentials. You follow me? Now that being the case, why would you reduce residential units from 331 down to 297? It appears to me, in reading this report, you would want more, not less, in order to help the merchants in the Glenbrook Shopping Center. But it says,
Hold on.
But it says lack of residents has caused a strain on the merchant's business. By the way, let's speak about the tenants, Glenbrook Shopping Center, and again referring to this statement. If you recall, I did a survey of a vacant office space last fall before the meeting last year. The number was 8. Last week I did the same survey and the number is 9. Not the same place, but different locations. And again, one of the signs in the window read, Vastland, your company. I recall a statement you made 2 weeks ago that your company owns Glenbrook Shopping Center. So maybe the real strain on business is not caused by lack of residents, but it's caused by high rent. You may reply.
All right, first, and again, I'm going to have to start taking notes here perhaps, but you wanted to talk about the first point, refresh my mind what your first point was there then. Oh, the number of residential units, I'm sorry. We came before you originally with 331 residential units.
That's what I said.
We were asked to reduce that number. We were told that that was too many, that the density was too high. Were we going to do whatever we wanted to do at that location, we probably would have done 331. But we reduced them by 10% in order to try to earn the confidence of this board. Now you wanted to, what was the second thing?
I was just talking about your merchants in the shopping center that
Oh,
you
the
own.
merchants in the shopping center, yes.
How come?
It's late, I apologize.
Excuse me, go ahead.
We have a number of shopping centers, and it is not unusual to have turnover in those shopping centers. You know, you may go there, a month from now and see 6 spots that are open, and 4 of them may be different from the ones you saw today. Turnover in a shopping center is expected.
Alderman Waters.
Maybe, thank you. Let me move on to another comment that you shared with the planning. The cost of these residential units would run between $200,000 and $425,000. Can you explain to us why such a wide range in cost?
Yes, sir. Some of them will be larger than others. Condos will have less square footage than the townhomes. There will be different amenities in different types of units, so that accounts for the kinds of price differentials we'd be looking at.
Okay. There are 297 residential units proposed. All of them are for sale units, correct?
Yes, sir.
No rental at all?
Well, someone could buy a unit and then decide that they wanted to move across town and decided to keep that as an investment and rent it. We can't control that. It is our intention to sell each and every one of those units, not to rent them.
Okay. Could you clarify to me the difference between a regular townhome unit and a live-work townhome unit?
The regular townhome unit will be probably 3 levels. Generally, they're 24 to 28 feet wide. You move up rather than moving across as you do in a condo unit. The live-work units, the only difference is that your first floor is a place where you can work, where you could have an accounting office, or where you could have an art gallery, or teach, do remedial work with students, those kinds of occupations. Each and every one of the things that is allowed in those live-work units is enumerated in the plan.
Okay, let me answer this question for me. Under live-work townhomes shall be limited to the ground floor, right?
Yes, sir.
And used only by the owner or renter of the upstairs portion.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So I can rent it?
No, you can buy it, or you can rent from someone who did buy it if they decide to rent it to you, but it is not for rent when we make it.
But I can buy it and I can rent it?
That's correct. We can't control that.
Okay. Getting back to the cost of your units, which is unbelievable. I cannot see myself paying $400,000 for a condo that you're showing in your map here, which is number 1, or the townhomes, which is showing as number 6. And the view from my front window and my front door is looking at Steinmark, Target, and the other building that you have listed here is number 19. I have one item here that I need you to clear up for me.
Yes, sir.
I go back to your comments 2 weeks ago when you were talking about changes that you made in a plan from the previous year. You stated, and I quote, "We have included additional money which we will contribute to the city for infrastructure improvements in addition to the $700,000 that we will be spending to expand Forest Retreat Road and replace the box culvert at the bridge. Now, I understand your comments about the expanding of Forest Retreat Road because that's part of the staff report. I know that because it says in number 3, widen Forest Retreat to property line, widen all incorporates, it will be 3 12-foot lanes and any related drainage improvements. The improvement identified will be completed by the developer, not the city. Is that right?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Now, I need you explain to me about the $700,000 because that's the first time I'd heard about it. Was at the last meeting. You mentioned 2 weeks ago how much money you are contributing to the city for infrastructure improvements. Do you have a figure or what the improvements are about?
As the plan is currently constituted as of this moment, the $700,000, as you mentioned, is for widening Forest Retreat Road along the east side of the property line to 3 lanes, 3 12-foot lanes, doing curb and gutter and drainage and finishing out that section of the road. Also, we would be either repairing or replacing the box culvert that is on the south side there of the property line, so it would accommodate traffic better and wouldn't be falling apart.
Wait a minute, you confused me.
And I might note that that is not required under the current development plan. There would be no improvement whatsoever if we were to move forward with the current plan. It is with the new plan here, with this new final development plan, that we would make those improvements.
Well, I'm sorry, but you're talking about Forest Retreat. We've already talked about that. You're going to do that. You just said $700,000.
Yes, sir.
My question, how much money are you contributing to the city for infrastructure? You said that at the last meeting.
At the current moment, there was another $50,000 that we were contributing with the suggestion that it be used for some sidewalk work and for some turn lane work, but it was truly at the discretion of the city. We can't earmark that money.
So you're saying the contribution that you're giving the city, but you're not saying how much, but it's going towards sidewalks.
I said $50,000, sir.
$50,000?
Yes.
Because right now, nobody is.
Well, here I am. I'm reading the staff report here. It says, provide a payment in lieu of $25,000 will be made to the city to cover construction costs associated with extending the sidewalk on the east side of Forest Retreat Road under the bypass. That was dated March 2018. Now I go to another printout from the planning department. Vastland is also offering to make a $50,000 payment in lieu to the city to assist in potential extending a sidewalk on the east side of Forest Retreat Road under the bypass. That's $50,000. Now, which is correct? You said 50. I'm reading 2 different figures.
Well, $25,000 was estimated at that time, and we were really seeking what the city wanted to do, what was the most important thing for the city to do at that point. And the cost of building that sidewalk on the east side of Forest Retreat Road and going under 386, if it was possible to do that, and we don't have the right-of-way, and you would have to negotiate with the state for that right-of-way, the cost of that was estimated to be about $25,000. The total contribution we were going to make was $50,000, including that contribution for the sidewalks.
Okay. I'm reading something here from a company called CATALYST Design Group. Forest Retreat Road has been shown and noted on the plans as being extended to the western boundary of the site. Additionally, drainage improvement necessary to accomplish the widening of shall be responsible of the developer. Improvements shall include curbs, gutters, sidewalks, road widening, and box culvert extension in accordance with the engineer's report. Do you have a problem with that?
No, sir, that's what we've been talking about.
You're going to build sidewalks up Forest Retreat to your property line.
Yes, sir, that's always been part of the project.
Thank you, Mr. Randall.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call Planning Director to the podium.
Mr. Free.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You ready?
I'm ready. Fire away.
The two staff reports that I just read relates to money and sidewalks.
Right.
One said 25, one said 50. Do you want to clear me up on that?
Yeah, the developer was, Mr. Renner, he was correct on that, that originally that 25 was designated for that sidewalk, and then there was an additional 25 that was for any other off-site improvements, and that was just combined together to come up with a total of 50 that they were agreeing to pay at that particular time for the city at its discretion to determine if you want to do the sidewalks or any other improvements up and down Forest Retreat or even over on Center Point, anything within that whole area that would impact that corridor, that 50,000 could be utilized.
Well, I appreciate that, Keith, but it says 50,000 for sidewalks, Forest Retreat, under the bypass. Now, that doesn't tell them they can use it anywhere they want to. It says, that's where it says it's got to go.
Yeah, that wasn't the recommendation from the Planning Commission. I believe that had just a total of 50,000 that was designated at the discretion of the city to use. It could be used for the sidewalks under the bypass, or it could be used to extend sidewalks further beyond what they were required to do up Forest Retreat, or it could be improving the turn lane at Hunts Lane and Center Point. It could be anything that the city determined this would be an improvement.
So you're saying the $50,000 can be anywhere? It's not
It
just,
could be anywhere, yes, sir.
not
But
what
I think it would need to be.
That's not what it says is my problem. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's noted that way in the document that was approved. I'm not for sure what, it could be, this has been, what was initially submitted could have been different from what's at the Planning Commission, and that was combined together for a total of 50,000.
I got it from your department, Keith. That's all I got.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I think what really concerns me is I look back to last year, 217, the plan we talked about last fall. And it clearly states improvement to include sidewalks on Forest Street Road to the developer's property line. We're good on that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Bear with me.
It's okay.
Don't y'all go to sleep on me out there.
Let's see where that was.
Here it is. I've got a problem with the bridge.
Yes.
I'm concerned, it's just me, because I see a bottleneck or maybe a nightmare when you come out of 3 lanes at that bridge part there, then all of a sudden it's 2 lanes. And that's just me. I don't know whether we can correct that or whether we can do anything about it or not. But, and maybe the board has their own opinion about it. I don't know. I know it would be nice if the developer would commit or volunteer to go a little step further on Forest Retreat. To me, that would tell our community and this board that they're concerned and willing to make improvements by going outside and beyond their own development. But no, as we heard in General Committee, they were confirmed and steadfast in their statement. We will not commit any further improvements anywhere. But they're willing to donate $25,000 or $50,000, every which figure you want to use, for sidewalks. It's this board's responsibility, Keith, to take care of the wants, not the needs, but the wants of our community and our citizens. It's not our job to satisfy the developers' wants, okay? And if they want to stick to their comment in our last meeting about money, they were going to contribute to the city for infrastructure, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that because it can be used anywhere in the city, correct?
Yeah. Well, I would think it would need to be, I think with the way that it was approved, it didn't limit, like, say, it had to be that sidewalk underneath of the bypass, but it need to be something within that corridor. I don't think the 50,000 that we're talking about, I don't think it'd be appropriate to take that and put it just anywhere in the city. It would need to be somewhere, reasonable that's impacted by that whole corridor.
You couldn't do very much with $50,000 anyway, right?
Yes, yeah, it'd be limited to more sidewalk or.
I think my
Turn lane
problem,
project.
Keith, is,
Yeah.
and excuse me for interrupting you,
Yes.
I don't want to leave any loopholes where the city will get stuck, just like we have in the past.
Mhm.
And Mansfield Farm subdivision is a fine example. It was not a pleasant experience, and I think everyone knows what I'm referring to. There's one thing, and I'll let you go. Mixed use and live-work units. What constitutes a live-work unit and a mixed-use unit?
I think and the developer can correct me if I'm wrong about what they're defining as that, but what a mixed use is, that'd be a situation where you have, like the example the developer gave, you could have a dry cleaner, a veterinarian, an art shop or something like that, all on the bottom floor, and then the second and higher floors, all that could be condos or multifamily. In this case, it's condos. And then that versus the townhomes that they were talking about that were live-work, that'd be something where, in this case, I guess it's a 3-story townhome where you can live on the top 2 stories, and whoever's living there, they can operate a business on some of these in the bottom, or they could use that as living space. It could be flex. So you may end up with a situation where, somebody is an accountant or something and they live above the unit, and then they operate their business out of there, and then at different times, they actually use that as an extra bedroom, and it's not really a business operated out of there. It's just kind of a flex space. So those are some of the differences. And then as far as the whole site being a mixed use, it's having those 2 separate uses, plus having where you might have an outlot of a restaurant or something like that on the site as well, where it might just be a 1 or 2-story office building or a restaurant or something like that. So that kind of what defines a mixed use type of thing.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Alderman.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I want to take a couple of minutes and show the board and our visitors here a sky view video of the area that we're talking about. And my cohort back there, that's the pro. Is it okay?
Sure.
If you got any questions when he's ready, we can stop at any time.
Hey, Jeff, are we okay? Can you?
There it is.
Okay. He doesn't control it. Yeah. We good?
Let me stop it right there, Chip. Go. That's okay. Up in the top, that dark spot, that's a different developer, and he's going to build, I think, an assisted living facility. That's correct. Something happened, he closed up shop, but that would have been an ideal place. That's that dark spot up on the hill. Go ahead, Chip. Stop it right there, please. Look at that beautiful scene there. How would you feel if 297 townhomes and condos was right there? Go ahead. Okay, this is the Forest Retreat, as we all know, and that's Alexander Place on the right. We're coming down towards the developer's property line, which is those trees to the left of that last driveway. Chip, I want you to stop when you get right to that little bridge there, because we've had a lot of discussion about that bridge, right there. If anybody wants to comment on it, because that's the bridge that they're gonna come up to and widen up to the intersection. And this is what I meant a while ago when I said I have a problem coming out of 3 lanes into that little 2 lanes there. But we all know that Travel Forest Retreat, it's terrible. I mean, it is unbelievable. It's narrow, there's no shoulders. It's just a bad location. Go ahead. I think we've done a good job on that video, don't you, Chip? Oh, yeah. Now, there's the apartment complex that we was talking about. Now, here's back to Forest Retreat. Just look how narrow it is, no shoulders. And it's dangerous, especially in the AM and PM coming from Center Point or Mascus Farms. It's terrible.
Dangerous.
I stood out there on that driveway, the first driveway on the left. That's a business friend of mine. I stood in his driveway for 30 minutes. In the morning, it was unreal.
Dangerous.
Right beside Steinmark, that's where the developer wants to build another, I think, a live work or mixed use unit right there.
No. It's dangerous.
And there's our apartments. Okay, you see we're leaving the intersection, we're going towards Deer Shackle Island. 2 lanes, now we'll go to 4 lanes. Now that's a nice road right there. You see your business, you even see 3 banks there. I think my lady Alderman Ward 3, I think she works at one of them. But you've got
Simmons Bank?
you got and let me say this: we took this in the afternoon. And if we took that at AM or PM, you would see more traffic. There's your Kroger's. Now on your right, Chip, if you want to stop it, there's your Chick-fil-A, Dairy Queen, Starbucks, and the new tire store behind there. And if you look real careful as we spad on down, there's turning lanes going into Kroger's to the left. And he's going to get hit if he don't watch it. And there's a turn lane coming this way to go into our business.
He's
That's a
distracted by
bad.
a drone.
I was there yesterday,
God bless you.
a bad time of day at noon. And I tell you what, I heard more foul language than I've heard in all my life. Watch that black car, watch that car. Now he's pulling into this new development, and it's a different developer. It's not this one. He's I don't know why we would approve an entrance or exit right there when it's only about 150 feet from the intersection. Any questions?
What time of day was that done?
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to show what a wonderful residential and business community we have. And yes, we do have problems like all parts of our city with roads, traffic, but we enjoy and appreciate what we do have. It's a shame that the community, I've been there 45 years, it's a shame that, I mean, thinking about destroying what we have there. We have such a nice community. I want to close by saying how I was criticized by the position I took by several people on the Beatty farm several weeks ago. I caught it from everybody, no, 5 or 6. Anyway, I told each caller the same thing. What kind of hypocrite would I be if I voted no for Beatty Farm? Let the developer go in and build townhomes, condos, whatever he wants to build. That's over in another part of town. Then I turn right around a month or two later and I come back and ask you to please, let's don't build 297 townhomes and condos in my back door. And after I told the callers that, he said, you know, you're right. That's a good point. He made my day. So I just wanted to share that with you because it didn't make any difference about the ward it was in. To me, it was the city. It could have been in any ward. That had nothing to do with it. But my point is, when I looked at what you guys was doing, and I really appreciate you, Mr. Verbal, I really do. You're a class guy. But when I went to your meetings and listened to you people talk, and what you wanted to present to the city, it was a done deal as far as I'm concerned. You didn't ask me to do nothing. Nobody asked me to do anything. But that's the way I felt when I went down that peninsula and looked and saw what could happen if the developer went in there and built all this. And my heart bled for you. And that's the reason I'm saying I'd be a hypocrite if I turned around and said just the opposite over here in Ward 6. I think I'm about to wind it up here, and I know you'll get tired of me. I don't talk half as long as my Public Works chairman, though, I tell you.
That would be a point of order at this point.
I want to, let me close with this, Mr. Chairman, and I'm going to paraphrase what my lady colleague from Ward 3 said several weeks ago, and she knows, she's right. She said, burn us once, shame on you. Burn us twice, shame on us. So I urge my colleagues to vote no on this resolution. A straight vote, vote no. No amendments, straight vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Alderman Waters, I appreciate that. You said that video was not shot in peak traffic. When was it shot?
Sir?
When was that video shot? What time of day?
Well, 10:30 in the morning? Yeah.
Okay. Appreciate that. Alderman Frisbee.
By the way, there was popcorn. We had popcorn.
Alderman Frisbee.
Well, I don't know how I can follow that. This is my first time I get to actually address anybody here, so yay. I live a good par 5 away from the development in Ward 3. This would affect our area. This would affect it greatly. Now, taking a look at the design of what they've got for us, okay, as a design and everything, it's a beautiful design. It's very nice, well thought out for its design. But it's a bad business model. It really is. If you look at it, it's in that corner for it, and it's supposed to match up with Glenbrook itself, but it doesn't. It doesn't match up. It doesn't become the same unit. We've now changed the business model from adding regular business, which is zoned for, and they could just do right now. So we're not talking about business. The business is not a point here. What we've done is we've added a 30-to-1 ratio of homes or condos to it. You know, and that's just unacceptable. Now, as my fellow alderman over here in Ward 6 is so vastly, stated, that there is going to be an issue with traffic. And make no, bones about it. I don't need a traffic study to tell me that's going to make, that is, going to make a big difference. I got the eye test here because I'm there every day in Glenbrook. I got a daughter that works at Target. So I have her over there, and I'm over there in line in the circle at Chick-fil-A waiting for my lap times. But I wish they'd just build a second Chick-fil-A right next to it. That'd just be so much.
Yeah.
But let's take a look at peak performance here. And if we go with the model that they have of dual income, no kids. So then we're looking at 2 vehicles that are going to have to leave that facility for each condo, let alone how many are going to have to come in from the ones they may rent out for businesses. If you take the average American car, and I've done the math on this, it is, and I want to be specific with you, it is 1.996 miles of cars. That's going to affect everything. And it's going to affect exponentially. Because I have the unique perspective, I work 3rd shift. As a matter of fact, Pat here was just asking me, he goes, did you already get time off from work? Or so you going to be okay? Because I go into work at 11 o'clock at night every night. And I'm good. I'm good. I knew we were going to be talking a long time, so I asked for extra time. So they gave it to me. But the point I'm trying to make on this is I drive back here at 8 o'clock in the morning. So when I'm flying through, 386, I am looking at 6 miles of traffic. And I'll tell you, it's not inconsistent. It's always right there, just about 300 feet past exit 6. You add 1.996 miles of cars, 2 lanes, that'll be a mile in each lane at peak. Now we're backing it up to exit 7. Now we're talking about people who are coming down from Indian Lake who are now going to be more affected. And then that's going to take that area, and that can back that up even further. I'm not against business, and like I said, we're not talking business here. It's algebra. We've got business and homes on one side, we've got business on the other. You take out business and business, and then you have homes. We're talking homes here. It's not a business decision, it's a homes decision. And then saying that we have a person or a business in Glenbrook that is waiting on seeing how this goes, I'm telling you, if your business is waiting on 297 condos to be built, you've got a bigger problem than that as a business. So maybe, that business needs to look at some other issues. As far as the traffic again, let's take a look at the other alternatives. You've got, if you go under the bypass, you've got 2 different ways to get out. And that's going to be going as Forest Retreat turns in over by Twice Daily. If the traffic backs up for one reason or another, guess what's there? Engine company number 5. And we just had the situation with Merrill Hyde. How could they have gotten out if they were blocking? If things were blocked out. And speaking of Merrill Hyde, if you continue on and you go up through Hillwood and I'm telling you, people are doing this. They do it all the time. They go right through Hillwood and then they turn down and try to go toward McDonald's. And then you got Merrill Hyde right there. They don't have bus service because it's a magnet school. So there's a lot of cars already. And now you're putting more cars on top of that. And that affects my ward. If I had a good reason to want to vote for this, I didn't get it in one email. I didn't get it in one phone call. I have received 0 emails and 0 phone calls in favor of this. So like I said, it's not only the impact it's going to have on the city, it's the bad business model itself. Because the businesses that we would be putting into that section right there are going to be in the smaller, and that's going to make it a niche business. And those niche businesses are going to they're going to have to kind of work within the space that they've been given. And if they go with the original business model that they have, now that is customizable, flexible. They go with this one that they're wanting to propose, they're tied in. So knowing with all that, I cannot, in good conscience, support this decision to add them.
Alderman Frisbee, thank you. Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could I suspend rules for the developer to come back for questions?
I think we're already there. Ken, you've already done it.
The live-work units, I live on the top 2 floors. I operate a business in the 3rd floor, or bottom floor. My business is shut down for whatever the reason. What are my options?
As far as what?
Can I sublease that bottom commercial
No,
part
it
now?
has to be operated by the person who owns the unit and who lives upstairs. You
All
can't lease it out for some other use.
And they're same thing, if my business expands, I need a bigger location, then I have to move. I also had to buy a new house.
Or you could continue living in that house and simply rent one of the commercial units in there. There'll be a lot of retail space in there.
Okay.
About 73,000 square feet, I think, between the retail and the restaurants and the other.
All right, the next questions are more clarification for me, because we've heard a lot of random things tonight. One of the things that keeps getting mentioned is previous experiences with other developments, for example, Mansker's Farm. So can you tell me what the association is between you or your company and that development?
I was not working with Vassland. I've been there 10 years, and I really do not know much about the history at Mansker Farms. I've heard stories from both sides, and
Oh, no, it's not a story.
Excuse me. Go ahead, Ken. Excuse me. We'll get to you, Alderman Cunningham, in just a second. Go ahead, Ken.
okay, I've heard stories from both sides about the getting the bonds released and the city engineer dragging their feet on doing that, not giving us a punch list of things we had to do to get bonds released, which delayed the projects in getting completed. So, I mean, I don't know since I wasn't there.
Okay. And I assume your development will be operated by a business association of some kind?
It will. There will be a homeowners association there, yes.
And I know with residential, single-family residential, we have allowed clauses for the HOA to limit rental units, like 10% of the development cannot be, no more than 10% can be rented out. Is that something your association would recommend?
We generally would turn that over to the association as soon as there were a sufficient number of units bought in there to run it. We would continue to pay association dues on all the unsold units.
Right.
And the association would have to vote on that, but certainly they would have to
Well, that's what
comply
I'm
with
asking,
any
like,
ordinance that might be in
you'll control
place.
it up until that point, so you could make that decision.
We could do that initially, yes, but we couldn't control it forever.
Right.
Unless there was a city
Would you-
ordinance that would
Would you
require
agree to that limit today?
I think yes.
So you'd limit no more than 10% could be rented out while you control it?
Again, we are going, it's a difficult question, only because we can't tell people generally what they can and can't do with their units. And if you were to want to rent your unit and Alderman Stamper were to want to rent his unit and we were right at the limit, how would we choose? We would be able to agree, I think, to a 10% limit. But again, it's hard to control.
Yeah, we successfully have done that with single-family unit, developments. Very easily, it's just 10% of the number of units, so if you have 100 units, no more than 10 can be rented out. Yeah. So like, part of me feels like you're saying you would agree to it, part of me says you don't, so could you
Well,
clarify?
I'm saying we would agree to it, but it's very difficult to enforce.
Okay. How would we need to make that firmed up?
Might be a Keith
John.
question. Is that
John.
John or?
I'm not sure you can. I mean, when someone buys the unit, like he says, how do you choose which one can rent it and which ones can't? I think the key from his point of view is that all the units are gonna be sold by them. They're not renting any of them.
And I guess it's a pointless question, because the next day they could
They can always change it.
override what they just agreed to, so ignore that. Someone mentioned there's apartments. I've asked this question in previous meetings. Can you clarify if there's actually apartments in this?
There are no apartments, no.
Thank you.
It is all townhomes and condominiums, for sale units only.
And it's been mentioned to me that you guys are doing more than what's been mentioned so far, you're willing to.
There's been conversations about that, but I can't make a motion for the board, so.
Yeah, and I'm not comfortable making that at this time, so maybe some other alderman can do that. The last question I have is for our Public Works Director. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Outside of the improvements already agreed to and any proposed additions to those agreements, is there anything else that we need to be asking this developer to do to improve the traffic flow in that area that they're going to cause or create?
Well, that would be at the discretion of the board. I mean, you can do many things to improve that. If you just have to decide how much you want to burden one developer for, in my opinion.
But there's nothing that's glaring to you that we're missing that's in staff reports, anything else?
In staff reports, no. That's how we would do with most standard development,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. I just got a comment, and then I'll turn it over to whomever. I want to thank the junior alderman in Ward 6. We don't always agree, and I'm not sure we're going to agree tonight, but one thing no one can take away from him is he works his ass off. It's 10:30, I'm saying it. So he's got a stack of notes over here, and there's no telling how long he's spent putting that. 3 months putting those together. Well, hold on. And he's not the only one that does that, you know. Ask me what I was doing last night at midnight, at 2 a.m., at 4 a.m. I'm tired. I've been up all night because I know this vote is going to impact your life. And it hurts me when people get up here and make ignorant comments that we just get elected and then we don't do anything until it's time to be reelected. It hurts me and it insults my family. My wife has been watching my kids for 6 hours so that I can be here. I beg you to think about what you say before you get up there and make blanket statements. Thank you.
Alderman Woodcock, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. Where do I start? I wasn't going to start here, but I will. An article in the Tennessean dated December the 9th, 2015. City settles Mansker Farms lawsuit. The city sued the developer of Mansker Farms for $1.8 million. I don't care about punch lists. That was an excuse that Mac McClung used for years. Y'all name names, because he came to our Public Works meeting several times, and several of the other aldermen remember that. We had to fight for 10 years to get our roads done. 10 years, 700 homes. Shame on you guys. I wasn't going to lead with that. I had a lot of upset people, like several thousand upset people. That's not right. If you guys did what you were supposed to do in Mansker Farms, we would be having a totally different conversation tonight. Because I really like that development. We would be having a conversation of you coming up with maybe $1 million for infrastructure improvements to support that development. I went down Center Point Road this morning when they're talking about cut-throughs, because the bypass was all backed up. Center Point Road is backed up, and this was at 7:45 this morning. Was backed up almost a mile, a 2-lane country road. You have 2-lane country road on one side, the other side, and then the Stop 30 area. I have a lot of upset people wondering, what are we doing here? 312 apartments were approved several years ago in Glenbrook. 320 more homes have been approved for Mansker Farms that have yet to be built. And then we want to add another 297 high-density, I don't care what you call it, it's high-density condos, townhomes in Glenbrook for a total of 929 residences, with literally no road infrastructure improvement to support it. I mean, where are these people going to go? You have a school around the corner, you have a firehouse around the corner, you have a 2-lane dangerous road with no shoulders that people could barely get by each other. Never mind a big truck that'll run you off the road. These are definitely concerns. And people, my constituents and the constituents around that area, and I know this is in Ward 6, but it affects Ward 3 so much too. They're upset, and rightfully so. And I apologize that I led with the other, because that wasn't my intention. When I first met with you guys, I said, show me the money. Well, you didn't show me any money. Show me the money for the necessary infrastructure improvements that could support your development. And then I was told, well, it's not our responsibility to fix the roads in Hendersonville. Well, no, I know it's not your responsibility to fix all the roads in Hendersonville, but at least try to support what you're going to put there. And then I was told by your representative that our planning director alluded to the fact that no infrastructure improvements were necessary. When I asked the planning director about that, he said that was not accurate information. And then I got an apology. I'm trying to be factual here. I just ask my fellow aldermen, think hard and long before you vote for this, please. If you think it's the right thing, then do it. If you don't think it's the right thing, if you don't want this high-density residential development in your ward, then you don't want it in our ward either. Thank you.
I don't know who was next. You?
You can shut me off. Go for it, Steve.
Who did I just click on? There's no names.
No name?
There's no names.
Looks like I'm on.
Mr. Brown, Alderman Brown.
Where's the mayor?
Okay,
Board, I'm sorry, there's no names on here, so.
that's okay.
I've been sitting in the same spot for like 4 years.
He took off, he just took off for a minute. Are you on?
I don't know. Am I on?
Okay.
Just turn yourself off.
I was on.
Now you're on. Alderman Brown.
What do we pay for that?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. It's just operator problems. before I get started into this, I would also like to echo the last statement Alderman Woodcock said a few minutes ago, and I'll leave it there. Pay attention to what you say when you step to that podium. Some of us do work pretty hard, believe it or not. This came before this board back in the fall, in November, and I voted for it. And if anybody pays attention to me, it was a really slow vote. I thought about it and leaned into it before I said yes. And that's simply because there were some questions, but I felt pretty good about it at that time. Back before this board again a couple weeks ago, and had some time to look at it between last November and a couple weeks ago. It was deferred to this meeting tonight so we could come to a resolution on this resolution. And so I've made several notes. I think you will see when I'm done talking that I've been to school too, and I've did my due diligence. I live on Indian Lake Peninsula. I'm Mr. Burble's neighbor. Not that close. I'm not that fortunate. I live in the front part up of Mr. Gilly. But I've taken some time to drive to Glenbrook 2 or 3 times to look at traffic. I've been in the traffic at Glenbrook before, and I agree with many of you. The traffic at times during the day is horrendous. If you're coming out of Kroger and you want to try to make a left, and Mr. Waters had the picture up here a while ago, you kind of got to do what the guy in the black car did. Hold your breath, push it, and pray a little bit all at the same time. So that's a fact. You can also do that on Gallatin Road, just about anywhere you want to, on Indian Lake Boulevard, depending on what time of day it is. It's a thriving city. We have a lot of traffic because we are a thriving city. That's going to be a problem no matter what we do. But I think, I believe our planning department, our meeting that we had the other night, discussions tonight, I believe we're working to a resolution of trying to fix some of those issues. I think they should have been fixed some years ago with better planning. Keith wasn't here then, so but Fred was, and Fred did a good job too. But some things we just didn't do exactly the way we were supposed to do. So we are where we are. I voted back in November for the project because I thought it was a good project for 2 or 3 reasons. Condominiums, a lot of folks want to live in condominiums. I know a couple other projects similar to that, not in this city, that I have friends in that enjoy living there. One of them is West Haven and Franklin. Various types of units, live, work, play. They can walk wherever they want to go, ride a bicycle wherever they want to go, and yes, they can play in the traffic too. So, I took the time last week after listening to some of you all at this podium and listening to the board 2 weeks ago to do something that I hadn't done, and but I decided I would. And looking at the proposal that was being made to us, I asked the consultant for Vaseline Company to see if I could sit down and talk to Mr. Renner. And that meeting was, I can't remember when we met, Tuesday, Wednesday last week, but we did sit down and came to my office, and we talked about probably an hour and a half about many of the issues that were brought up tonight, about development in general, about what's going on in our community to try to get to traffic flows, to try to fix some of the infrastructure issues we had. what they had committed to do in rebuilding a box culvert and widening to 3 lanes in front of their development. You know, I don't think they, from our discussion, that they necessarily want any empty buildings. You're not making any money if you've got a Vaseline sign in it and then people are not paying rent. But that's the way business is. It's not just there; it's other places too. I've went down that road 10 years ago myself. Some of you may remember. Understand that having full businesses is making people money. Having people shop in businesses helps make them money. Having people work in businesses helps bring money in this community. So anyway, during our meeting, I expressed several feelings and concerns of my own, and that I had voted for this once before. I felt like I wanted to vote for it again, but I didn't feel totally comfortable with it. And so we had a long discussion, and I asked them if they would consider doing some other things, some things that had been talked about tonight, some things that Alderman Waters mentioned a few minutes ago, some things that you all mentioned standing up here, and road maintenance, potholes, shoulders, 3 times. Infrastructure improvements, dangerous, narrow, safety. Those are all things I wrote down, the words that come out of y'all's mouth up here, or come from this group of people up here tonight. 2 or 3 things. Number one, I really think this is a good development because it completes Glenbrook. It's done. It started many, many years ago, and it completes it if we do this development. That's one reason I feel really good about it. I'm also under the feelings that when you have folks that have invested in commercial property or any property, that we as a city need to do our very best on try to help them develop what they need to develop in order to get their investment back and maybe make some more money. So anyway, we talked and came to an agreement that satisfies me. It'll get a yes vote from me. And I hope it will satisfy you. It's not going to satisfy everybody, I don't think, but I think it's a reasonable agreement. We have in the past, and we'll talk about impact fees a minute, and then I'll get right back to that conversation. We have right now are currently in the middle of an impact fee study. We will probably sometime in September or October have recommendations on maybe what our impact fees should be for houses, condos, commercial. It'll cover the whole gamut. We don't know what that is right now. Okay. When we asked the developer at Mansker Farms, Ms. Cunningham was talking about the 300 units that was approved over there. We asked the developer to chip in some money. That was really kind of our first step as a group of folks of saying, here, we want a little bit more out of the developer. And we asked that developer to pay $900 per lot, and then pay roughly $300 per unit over there that would go toward their intersection that they needed some construction and rework on. So those 300 lots over there are paying about $1,200 once they start pulling their permit fees and whatever. So that was kind of our first stab at it, and I think all of us felt halfway decent that we'd made some headway in getting the developers to give us a little bit of money to do something with. I did. And I was asked a week ago, or a couple weeks ago, what I thought the number would be. Well, I really don't. I don't have a clue what the number is. It could be $10,000. It could be $2,000. It could be $2,500. It could be $3,000. I don't have a clue. You know? But I know we're behind the curve. I know we can't ask one developer to get us ahead of the curve. We can't ask 2 developers to get us ahead of the curve. We're behind the curve. We put ourselves behind the curve. I told Ken Renner in my office last week, I said there comes a time that we have to stop so we can start over. It's just unfortunately, in my way of thinking, we stop and we start over right there with Vaseline. So I asked them if they would consider a couple things. It's going to cost them a little bit of money. The two things I asked them was, and I keep hearing traffic and infrastructure, and we need to fix this, and shoulders. I asked them if they would consider widening shoulders and reworking the road all the way to the county line. It's a half a mile. I also asked them at that time if they would be willing to, and let me preface this by asking them that. Just by being over there one day, I saw a young couple with a stroller coming down Forest Retreat Road out of Alexandria Place. I don't know who that was. I wanted to holler out the window that you are insane, but I would not do that. But I also have some very good friends that live over there that live right at the edge of the county line, and she told me the other day when I was having a discussion with her, she said, I see people come out of Alexandria Place all the time, walking, running, jogging, and riding bikes down Forest Retreat Road. I'm smart enough to know that's dangerous myself. So I asked Mr. Renner if they would consider putting sidewalks all the way from the three-way stop all the way to the entrance of Alexandria Place. That's 1/3 of a mile. They said they would consider. I had it, if I could get Mr. Moore, I just want you to clarify a couple things. Neither Mr. Renner or I pulled these figures out of our hip pocket. I had contacted Chip a couple days, 2 or 3 days before our meeting, so I would kind of know what I wanted, and I'd be able to tell Mr. Renner what I wanted as well. And I asked Chip, what could we get this done for? What could we get all the way to the county line? I can't. You gotta understand, this board cannot do anything once we get to the county line. What I would tell you to do is call your county commissioners, and I'll be glad to give them your number. But call your county commissioners and tell them it needs some help from the county line on. But I'm gonna go get and pass these out. I'm trying to be suspenseful or just unorganized, or I missed the news, so, you know, which is okay. Probably not very good anyway. I asked Chip to get me the figures on what it would cost to do that milling and paving and extending the shoulders, because there is no shoulder on Forest Retreat, and striping that road. I also asked him what we could do sidewalks for up through there. He got with Rogers Group, and I want you to confirm to me and these folks here that figures in the $225,000 range, that we can do all that. That can be done. I know that doesn't fix the world, but it certainly does fix some potholes. It does get shoulders extended. It does get safety in the way of sidewalks along the side of a road where people can walk. That will not only enhance that community, it keeps us as a walkable community. And again, I'll say we can't do anything past county line, but we can do something to the county line. And I also want to ask Chip that if we do this, that, well, first of all, I'll tell you that I asked Mr. Renner, we discussed how we can get this paid for, where everybody'd be satisfied. And the $50,000 that they offered to begin with in lieu of, we'll get that check within 10 days of passing this resolution. If we pass it tonight, 10 days from now, he'll deliver a check to the city for $50,000. Before they even start doing anything. And then as they pull the first 60 permits for the condos, they will pay $2,916.67 per permit. Now, I want to go back and hit that figure again. $2,916 $916.67 plus $50,000 divides out to be $3,100 impact fee per unit that they were willing to pay. It's the biggest impact fee that this city has ever negotiated with any developer. Now, does that set the bar and tell us exactly where our impact fees are going to be? Don't know. But it's the biggest one we've ever asked for. And we've got a developer that's willing to do it. And are they gambling? Maybe they'll come in a little cheaper now, a little higher. I don't know. But I like the product, and I think being able to take care of that road all the way to the county line, not just the box culvert or in front of their property, and getting sidewalks for those families that live in Alexandria Place is a big plus. I was willing to sit down and take my time and do the due diligence with these people that we needed to and talk to them. I want to bring that in the form of an amendment, which is in front of you right now.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second. Go ahead, Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Alderman Sprouse. That we go ahead and move forward with this amendment, and then we go ahead and move forward with a positive recommendation on the resolution. I think it's a good deal. Thank you.
Alderman Sprouse.
I'd like to address the amendment first, but then after we vote on that, still stay in queue for the main question. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for this. I think something that's very important when we talk about these are measurables. This is very much like the conversation we were having earlier when talking about a multi-million-dollar purchase. We have things we can write down. And one thing that gives me greater comfort is that we're talking in many parts about the developer giving the city money so the city can perform work. We have definite amounts at a definite time and definite timetable for future payments. So we don't have to worry about someone saying that the asphalt plant was closed. We don't have to worry about someone saying the weather wasn't good or half their crews showed up. They write the check or they don't write the check. We know that pretty quickly if they're going to be compliant. It's then up to our crews, who I know and trust more than any other crew that we could have working in the city of Hendersonville, to perform these tasks. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Does anybody else wish to speak on this amendment? Alderman Stamper.
I have a question, I guess, for the maker. Has the developer seen this final language and agreed to all of these stipulations? If I can ask Mr. Renner, have you seen a copy of this?
I will tell you, yes, he has. He's agreed to it all.
Well,
Do what?
I want to hear it from him.
Okay. Ken, can you head up there with the microphone so we can all hear you? Do you need a copy? Do you want to?
No, that's precisely the amendment we agreed upon.
Okay, so you had seen all of these stipulations, and y'all are okay with these if we pass this amendment? Y'all are going to do these
Yes, sir.
things?
We're good with it.
Thank you.
Alderman Stamper, anything else? Alderman Cunningham.
I have a question for the maker.
Yes, ma'am.
So this would be $2,916.67 only for the first 60 townhomes and nothing for the rest?
No, ma'am, because that pays them out what they've committed to do.
Okay, so it's just impact fees for the first 60 units. Is that correct?
Yes, they're basically paying their impact fee within the first 60 permits.
Okay,
That
thank
way
you.
we will have the money in the bank where, can we get it started and worked on in 12 months, Chip? Give or take, probably take, but
Give or take, it's depending upon how quick they get it built and pull the permit, so yes.
Okay, thank you.
they're paying.
Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to speak to this amendment briefly, but I'd like to come back to the main motion. I asked, as one of the planning commissioners, I asked this back in November, and for those of you who may not know, who I will commend the junior alderman from Ward 5 on his comments about Alderman, how much time we spent on these projects. This is going to be my 4th vote on this project. Back in November, I asked you to remove this curb cut, and I didn't get like a head nod or any type of acknowledgement of anything. I'd like to tack onto this amendment to get this curb cut removed.
Yeah, I see.
It's up to the mayor. Mayor,
Are you making a motion to amend the amendment?
the developer would like to speak. May he answer the question?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on just a second. You're different than Ken.
I am.
All those in favor of allowing Jeff, last name?
Hines.
Jeff Hines to suspend the rules, allow Jeff to speak, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no. Ayes have it. Jeff, go ahead.
Thank you. I recall that conversation very clearly, and the point I made when you asked about that was that in widening Forest Retreat to a 3-lane section, there is a center turn lane there, so that effectively you had the turning capability into that entrance, and you're not impeding traffic in any way. And I thought, having made that point, that addressed your concern.
So you're saying no, you will not eliminate
Well,
the curb cut?
If you, it is a second way out. Is it mandatory? No. I guess we can run it through the light if that is your preference. That'll affect the timing on the signal. So what you see in favor one way may offset the timing where you have to have a longer light time for Andrews Run than Forest Retreat. But if that is a concern, even though there's a center turn lane.
You guys are the new kids on the block, so everybody else is going to wait. So I guess if this is approved, you guys can wait too. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 curb cuts here. That's plenty of egress for movement. Now, granted, it hasn't come through planning yet. I had a brief discussion with Public Works about it again today. Hendersonville has a condition called left-hand Louis. Everybody likes to make a left-hand turn in this town when they could go down an additional 35 feet and go to the light and save everybody's life and property damage. This close to this intersection, all the left-hand Louis are going to turn here, and you're going to have impact at some point. I would say once a day, once every other day. All of these folks are going to come speeding down to exit here to evade the light to go all the way over to Center Point Road and clog up Center Point Road. As a part of this amendment, I would like that you all to agree, and this has no bearing on how I'm going to vote on this project. I want this curb cut taken out permanently.
Yeah, help us out.
Right here, the one that exits onto Forest Retreat Road. They are well within codes to have this here, but what I'm saying is it's so close to this intersection. When somebody inevitably comes out to avoid the light or whatever and comes to make that left-hand turn, there will be impacts here. You will also have people turning in here when people are waiting here. The people that are going to be waiting here to turn in are going to be backing up traffic more. There's no need for this. We have 4 curb cuts right here.
Okay, hold on one second. Alderman Petrelli, are you making a motion?
Yes.
We've got a motion to amend the amendment.
Did they agree to that?
Well, we have a motion right now. We either need a second or we have a motion and a second. Now we're discussing the amendment on the amendment. Keith, can you help us out here? Alderman Petrelli, do you have anything else on the amendment to the amendment?
No, thank you, sir.
Okay, appreciate that. Alderman Brown, anything on the amendment to the amendment? On the curb cut?
I'd just like to hear what Mr. Free has to say.
Okay, Keith?
Yeah, this was discussed, and I think what we were looking at that is that the issue was the concern that Alderman Petrelli was bringing up about how that turn would work. I think, it's going to be dependent also on what actually ends up going in there and how that could function, and maybe it could be limited where you couldn't turn left out of there, and look at actually when they get to the site plan phase to kind of work that out. I think it could be something definitely that when we progress to the site plan phase, that could be limited at that point. At this stage, it's really, there's a lot of detail there, but it's really kind of conceptual. And then when we get into the site plan stage, then that would be an issue where we would evaluate, how it was laid out, and the city engineer would, to determine this is going to create a problem or not.
Mayor, I'd like to discuss.
Alderman
the
Brown,
amendment.
anything else? Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Alderman Stamper.
Well, based on the reactions I'm getting, I don't think this is one that was met beforehand and previously agreed upon. But as my junior alderman, when he showed the excellent, I guess that was that drone footage? Was that, or were you up in a helicopter?
Drone, yeah.
Drone, okay. When he showed that drone footage at the corner of Glenbrook Way and New Shackle Island, this board overrode the two aldermen in that ward on that. And my biggest concern was quick serve. I know Mr. Lucky wanted have options, and I said I'm okay with it as long as it's not quick serve, and thank goodness we don't have a quick serve in that area, because coming out of there, left-hand Louis, I said, I don't want that entrance right there on Glenbrook that close to light. This is the same exact type of thing where they're going to cut through. I would rather go out Good Shepherd's, exit and turn right and sit at the light like everybody else. So I like her amendment. I'm concerned about that. She's absolutely right. This town now, just to give background, I haven't shared this story in 8 years, but I'm the reason that there's a stoplight at the hospital. When I was 16, I was turning left. I was the last accident before. I guess it tripped whatever the number is. I don't know how that. So I was getting stoplights and put in before I was even an alderman. But I turned left there across New Shackle. The sun was coming right down over there. I never saw the two motorcycles. They both hit me and spun my car around. Thank goodness they both lived. One of them was in bad shape. But anyhow, since that time, for probably 10 years, I never turned left across traffic. Now I do it on occasion, but I'm amazed at the number of people in this town who put their lives at risk to save an extra few seconds. And so for me, it's a real concern. People cutting left across there to save, a minute of their life when it could cost them their whole life. So I like this amendment. I'll support the amendment, but I don't know if if we start making amendments and the developers say we're not going to do it, then that just kills the whole thing, but so be it. I'll vote for the amendment to the amendment.
Alderman Waters. Thank you, Alderman Stamper. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. Question to the maker of this amendment. You just talked, it says townhomes. It does not mention condos.
Hold on one second.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're still talking about the change in the curb cut. I'll put you on the list after this.
I'll wake up in a minute. It's my bedtime.
Anybody
anyway.
else on the elimination of the curb cut?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Strauss.
Thank you, Mayor. I can appreciate the spirit in which the amendment to the amendment is offered. I'm a little bit concerned about some of how it deals with the process. So, Keith, if I understand correctly, there's still going to be site plans that are going to have to come before the Planning Commission when we know actual tenants, actual use, actual construction that's going to happen on this parcel. I'm sorry. He's not here. Is this your mic on?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, that's correct. The thing about it is this is a fairly large plan development. So what Alderman Petrelli has brought up, it is a large site. So it's a little different than if we were just looking at a corner lot and they kind of needed that, they would really be screaming to have that access. In this case, we've got something that's a pretty large plan area, plan development, and looking at those things, if we don't want that, it's a reasonable thing to consider even at this early stage. It's a reasonable thing to consider because it is a large area. It's not just like one corner lot that we're talking about.
Because one thing that concerns me is that we put something on there that ultimately shackles the Planning Commission into making what could be a good decision once all the data is in.
Yeah.
And so really my question to you is do you feel like we're creating any potential for doing that? Or, because my other option would be, is to trust your staff and the Planning Commission and Mrs. Petrelli as a representative on the Planning Commission to make that argument and make that decision once we know the actual use, the actual site plan. I just don't want to do anything that's going to shackle what could be a good decision. And, 3 months from now, we're saying, man, we wish we had done this.
Right. It's a difficult.
It's a little micromanagement.
Yeah, it's difficult to say how it would impact it, if it would be a very negative impact, because we don't know exactly what that, what that would be. But it would have, if we did that, if we just said there's no access right there, it would be limiting when we got to that point to design that. But it may be that that's what we might end up doing anyway as it goes. Because this was talked about in detail with the Planning Commission, and it was a concern of the entire Planning Commission about that access through there.
And that's my nature is not that the concern is there, but just what's the appropriate forum and time to make that decision.
Right. If this board considered it a large enough of an issue, it would be reasonable to consider it at this time. It is early in the conceptual part of it, but this is a large development, and things could be done to overcome the limiting of that.
So we're getting a hand raised here.
I was just going to offer, one way to word this as an amendment would be that there will be no full access curb cut at that location, which would allow perhaps just a right in or right in, right out, and study it at the time of site plan with a traffic study at that time too. So that would be a compromise. Basically say there's no full access curb cut there.
Okay, hold on. Alderman Strauss,
The
anything
left
else?
turns will be.
No, I'm fine on the
Alderman
amendment to the
Petrelli?
amendment.
For the sake of the amendment, I'm willing to make it right turn only, but I would prefer that the curb cut be come out once it comes through Planning Commission. Unless my research is incorrect, and I researched with 3 different staff members, this is not required by code. That's
Okay.
my understanding.
Alderman Petrelli, help us out here. So you're going to change the amendment to,
Right-hand turn only, no left-hand turn, correct?
okay. Alderman Cunningham, you made the second.
Yes.
Okay,
Make a second.
Okay, good job.
Change.
Good change.
gotcha. Anybody else to speak on the curb cut going from full access to right turn only? All those in favor of the amendment to the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Now we're back on the amendment. Alderman Waters to talk about this sheet that Alderman Brown handed out, but now it includes the change to the curb cut.
I was just concerned in reading this, Mr. Chairman, and the sponsor. It just refers to townhomes. It doesn't say anything about condos. Should we be concerned about that?
You asking me, since I'm the,
Sure.
yes, it
I mean,
covers 297 units, condos, townhomes, whatever's built there.
We got, 132 condos. I'm not talking about the townhomes, live, work. I'm not talking about that. But are you saying townhomes and condos, all of them?
Yes, sir.
297?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Waters, anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
Alderman Brown.
Thank you. Just for everybody's got a copy of this. You all don't have a copy of it, and I see some agreeing and some wondering, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time of doing some reading, just so you will understand. So I'm asking this board to approve this resolution by adding the following language, conditions of approval. The first thing is the developer will widen Forest Retreat Road to 3 lanes from Andrews Run to the eastern boundary of the property line. Expand the box culvert to accommodate a wider road and build sidewalks along the widened road, with these improvements to be made prior to the issuance of permits for before Phase 2 or other future phases of development. He'd already agreed to that. Item 2, the developer will provide $225,000 to the city to pay for the cost of building a sidewalk from Andrews Run, the stoplight, all the way up to Alexandria Place. The cost of building two foot shoulders on each side of Forest Retreat Road from the developer's property line eastward to the city limit, county line. And paving all those sections of Forest Retreat Road, striping, doing those improvements. That's item 2. Item 3 is the $225,000 will be paid as follows. And I want to make sure that this is, I may have given Alderman Cunningham a wrong answer a few minutes ago. It'd be paid with $50,000 down that they had agreed to already within 10 days of approval. The remaining $175,000 they've already committed to roughly 700,000 fixing the box culvert. The remaining 175,000 will be paid at the rate of $2,916 per the townhomes and/or condos, whichever comes first, in phase one. When they pull those 60 permits, that's when it's paid. Okay. So they have a total impact fee with their box culverts and the extending of the sidewalks all the way to Alexandria Place and taking care of Forest Retreat to the county line of $925,000 or $3,114 per unit, per unit.
Mr. Brown?
Hold on one second. It's
You gotta
really
come
just
up.
to answer questions. Do you have a question? Does anybody have a question for him?
Well, no, he had a question for me, I think, so that's.
What was your question, Ken?
Actually, I was in clarification. It was only for the first 60 townhomes, not townhomes and condominiums, for the
Okay.
first 60 townhomes. And those
You're
will
going to
be,
build the townhome first.
yes, that's our plan.
Okay, hold on. Alderman Brown, do you want to explain that for us a little bit?
There's 297 units there. The first 60 units they're going to build is going to be townhomes. When they pull a permit to build a townhome, they're going to write a check for $2,916.67 to pay that part of their fee for the $225,000. When they pull permit number 2, they will write a check, and that's making it simple. They'll probably pull them in 10s and 20s.
That's correct.
But they will pay that entire $225,000 before the first 60 units are out. That way, we will have the money in the bank, and we can go ahead and start work on the road and the sidewalks whenever we can get that done. So, the last thing is the estimated $700,000 is to be expended by the developer for the first item we talked about, plus the $225,000 provided for item 2 will be in lieu of any other fees. That'll be their fees, which totals $3,114 per unit. Now, is that clearer or clearer in mud, or?
Thank you, Alderman Brown.
That's it, though.
Alderman Sprouse.
Oh, I was ready to talk to the main question.
We can come back to you?
I'm sorry?
We can come back to you, but we've got 2 other folks here.
Yeah, please go.
Okay. Alderman Petrelli on the amendment.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Alderman Stamper on the amendment.
Yeah, I want to clarify, because I'm looking at the phasing of this and condo, and now we're getting into condo v townhome. And phase 1 says begin and final out 75 residential units, option of 2, 4, and 5. So 2 is condos. And so I guess my question is, what happens if, for whatever reason, we go to, the developer decides to build out from 2 instead of 4 and 5 on the phasing? Mr. Hines?
Question for Jeff?
That's a question for Jeff. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
We'll just make it, we agree to make it residential units in the stipulation.
Can I make an amendment to the amendment that we change?
Maybe we back up Peter and ask him to change his amendment? Or do you want to make it?
Whatever gets to that point, Mayor. I think you're right. If the original maker would modify his motion to
He may
include
choose not to,
residential.
so we'll see. You want to explain it to him?
Instead of townhomes, say 2916.67 per residential unit, with the issuance of each building permit for the first 60 residential units in phase 1.
That's good for us, that's good for you, that's good.
I'll take the second.
Hold on, was the second from?
Yeah.
We're going to trust you, it was way back. Okay. Alderman Stamper, anything else?
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak on the amendment? Alderman Campbell.
I'd just like to say that the paragraph 2, down here where it says eastward, it should be westward to the city limit. Forest Retreat Road from the developer's property line eastward to the city limit, it should be westward because you're going west.
Correct. We discussed that typo a while ago, we just didn't get it correct.
Well, I'm just saying.
Okay, Alderman Brown wishes to tell us where that is.
That is in paragraph 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down, says eastward should be westward.
Alderman Sprouse?
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Heck of a lot of paving.
It's should be the western boundary.
Where,
Western boundary, yes.
the western boundary?
Yes, I will not tell you who typed this amendment up.
Get your comments out.
Okay, so, Alderman Sprouse?
I agree.
Okay, so we have two changes to this amendment compared to the way it was typed. Excuse me, three changes. First paragraph, western instead of eastern. Second paragraph, westward instead of eastward on the fifth line. And then the third paragraph, instead of townhouse, residential units. Alderman Stamper, Alderman Sprouse on the amendment?
No.
Okay. All those in favor of the amendment as amended and changed from what is typed, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Okay, that passed unanimously. Now we're back on the main motion as it's been amended, essentially using this sheet of paper here, plus the handwritten changes we need to make, plus the right out access. A right turn only. Alderman Petrelli. Made motion.
Oh, sorry.
I thought you want me to come back to you. Oh, made motion.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll speak. Thank you.
Okay. And Alderman Sprouse.
So again, we're at an issue of what I believe is quality of life issues. We had this in Ward 5 last year. We had a conservation, I'm sorry, it's late. We had a conservation easement on a conservation subdivision where we had, I believe, 38 acres. And a good portion of that was green space. Granted, a lot of it was mountains, but, you know, we look at that and we rejected that. And why was it rejected? Because of the density and the purported impact that it would have on Saundersville Road. We turned down $1.2 million, close to 1.3. So here we are in a section of town that, you know, some of it's new. It's been developed in the last 2 to 3 decades. Other parts of town have been around since the early 70s, early 60s in that area. So here are my concerns. The first concern is parking. And I realize that you all are subjected to codes. You have code requirements to say this is how much parking you need. So on these 23 acres, you have 919 parking spaces. If you do the math on that, that comes out to 4.2 acres of asphalt just for the parking. I'm not talking about all the interior roads within that subdivision. Is that a part of development? It sure is. Look at Glenbrook. Look at Target, Kohl's, that whole area. I was over there actually on Friday and Saturday and Monday trying to see different parts of the day, traffic patterns, activity. Typically, that shopping center is 2/3 vacant. All that asphalt sits there chugging. And when it's raining, like today and last night and every other day that it rains here, that water has to go somewhere. Some of it goes into sewers, but some of it just runs. So it's a lot of impervious surface. Then when you look at the plan and you look at all of the buildings, there's not a lot of green. I know you all have met the requirements of the green space. Can I borrow that? Yes, go ahead. But there's not a lot of green. You got a little green here, some here, some here, some here. I've said it before in public meetings. I'm not gonna call a detention or a retention pond green space. It is not usable by humans. It's just not. I know you need it because you got close to 25% impervious surface ratio on this site. This water's got to go somewhere. It's got to go there, and it's going to go there. So you've got this 100-year floodplain. It's not really usable. Sure, somebody could probably walk back in there, but it's just not enjoyable space. So the issue goes back to quality of life and density. And I realize, developers, the burden cannot be put on developers to save Hendersonville at this point. The Walton Ferry Peninsula, I'd love for there to be shoulders on those roads, on Saunders Ferry and Walton Ferry. I have lived on that peninsula almost 50 years now. It still hasn't happened with all of our tax revenue and the $1 million a month we're making now in tax revenue. We still can't get shoulders on the road in Ward 1. But let's go back to this. So we have very little green space. The burden can't be completely on every individual developer, but you set the changing of trends. What is the tolerance level of the general public? What are they going to tolerate now? It's not 1987, it's not 1997, it's not 2007. People are not in the build, build, build mentality anymore. What is our quality of life? If the density of this was reduced by 1/3, it would be so much more palatable if there was so much more green space. And I realize that means you lose money. In a different project that your representative developed, I asked them to remove 8 lots, and they did it. It cost them about $1 million in loss. Granted, that project didn't pass here, which is interesting that Forest Park didn't pass, but this is under heavy consideration, and the density of this is much greater. But that's the subject for another day. So when we talk about density, we talk about quality of life issues. So let's talk about these 919 parking spaces, and let's be conservative. Let's say there's 400 cars there on a daily basis. And I'm going to go to the junior alderman in Ward 3. If 200 of those cars skirt past the firehouse, as he indicated, that really concerns me. That is a major public safety issue. If it snakes through Glenbrook and comes out at New Shackle, or goodness forbid, it snakes down Forest Retreat all the way to Center Point Road and comes down Center Point Road, I don't think either of those two areas, I don't care if it's your development or anybody else's development at this point, the infrastructure can't handle it. You cannot convince me why. Here's why you cannot convince me why. I drive Center Point Road 6 to 8 times a day. Last week, I narrowly missed a head-on collision, which any of you who are Facebook friends with me saw what I posted about that. I got Hendersonville's finest out there, and man, they took care of business. I got about 22 phone calls from parents and other people that said, thank you, Hendersonville police officers, for stopping the stupidity out there. Had another call from somebody going the wrong way on Center Point Road because they weren't patient enough to drive in the right flow of traffic. Now let's talk, so that's what's going to happen at Center Point Road if you add 200 cars. It's going to add to the chaos, to the lack of infrastructure in that area. The roads don't even have shoulders. So let's talk about the exit off of 386 on into the Glenbrook area, which would naturally feed this proposed development. So one of our speakers came up and mentioned that on Saturday there was a horrible accident. Somebody took out a pole. I confirmed it with some of our public safety officials, and it backed up traffic. Okay, well, I was confused because I was like, no, that happened on Friday night. And they're like, nope, that was Saturday. Well, on Friday night, here's what I had to deal with. Coming from the Indian Lake area, I did a quick little drive-through about 4 o'clock, Indian Lake, did some shopping, tried to generate some tax revenue in our fine city, and decided to go to Kohl's, okay? So as I'm going to get off the exit, so as I'm heading towards Nashville, traffic is starting to pull over on the side of the road. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? This is totally illegal, but I've got to go to Kohl's. So I start pulling over. I would say maybe 2.5, 3 miles of us pulling over on the side of road on 386, so much so that I called Hendersonville's finest again, because I wear them out, and said, we've got a major situation here on 386. Our exit to Glenbrook is so backed up that there's about 70 cars on the side of 386. Not only that, a tractor trailer, so I've got about 40 cars or more behind me, a tractor trailer started turning sideways because of the complete and utter dysfunction of the traffic. I would have loved to have taken a picture of it, but I was praying that nobody was going to get hurt. So when you're dealing with this level of traffic in a city, and I'm not saying all the time, but definitely during our rush hours, cannot handle that level of traffic. you're starting to add not only to quality of life issues, you're adding to public safety concerns and issues. We have a budget that we can't even afford to add public safety officials to. I am open to suggestions from anyone on how they think we can make that happen. So, quality of life issues, density issues, public safety issues. You guys agreed to a right-hand turn only. I appreciate that if this happens. And one last thought. This is just a pie in the sky type of thing. So people talk about these townhomes, these live, work, play. This is not a new concept. When my great-great-grandfather came over from Italy, well over 110 years ago, this is how he lived. He lived in Queens, New York. The bottom floor was a grocery store, and the top 2 floors were where you lived and worked. That's how it used to be. And then we wound up with suburban living, the Frank Lloyd Wright. You guys know all this. So this is not a new concept. It's new to Hendersonville. I think it's creative, but again, it's the density. I think if it was a third to half of this, it would be more palatable. But we have people flocking to Nashville to go to Top Golf. And I'll tell you what, it's really expensive. It's fun. For a card, just to get a card to go play costs, I don't know, $10. You want to really start thinking outside of the box? Put a Top Golf in over there. Keeps most of the site green, cuts down on our stormwater issues. I mean, that's really thinking outside of the box. Anyway, I appreciate the changes that you all have made and the creativeness. I'm so concerned about density and added traffic that I can't support this project again at this time. Thank you.
Alderman Petrelli, thank you. Alderman Sprouse.
Thank you. I'm going to start off with just echoing some of the comments that were made earlier. It is extremely unfortunate, the accusations that were made against members of this board, that we don't care, that we don't reach out, that we don't engage the constituents. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail because I think that comment was so reprehensible and unfair, not just to members of this board, not just staff of the city, but to our families. Mr. Woodcock was right. I feel for him. When I was first elected, I had a 2-year-old and a 6-day-old. Why my wife did not leave me, I do not know. But I look down this table and I see people who've had to leave meetings for family emergencies and then came back. I've seen people who had to weigh between spending time here at City Hall and spending time with family members on the deathbed. I can take you out in the lobby and show you where I was standing when I received the call that my grandmother died. But it was my father who told me that he knew there was something that had to be done at this building, and we didn't know when it was going to happen. But he did know that if I didn't come to the building that afternoon, something that a constituent needed wasn't going to happen. I can talk to you about my children. I can talk about y'all's children and your parents and the obligations that you have. And I'm not saying that as a complaint because we signed up for this. Now, my wife will complain. She won't go to the grocery store. I'm glad the grocery store was mentioned. She will not go to the grocery store with me because there is no such thing as a going in for a quick trip to get a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread. Because I will engage people, and if they have a question, I will ask. And it's someone I know, I will ask them about how things are going on. If she really wanted to complain, she will say from time to time, she will remind me of the time that she was being wheeled into the hospital in labor, and the orderly who was wheeling her wanted to talk about a zoning issue, and I did not say, excuse me, my wife is having a baby, I'll call you next week. She would probably even tell you about a couple weeks ago when I was 6 time zones away and on another continent was we were celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary, and I took a phone call from a constituent who wanted to talk about the deer feeding ordinance. I got the look, but in 25 years I finally figured out. He and I continued the conversation a few days later when I got back. But those are the things we have to say. I'm not complaining because we signed up for this. And if you've ever come up to me and apologized on a phone call or in person in the store, I'm not going to talk to you about it at church. I'm not going to talk to you about it on the sideline watching my kids play a sporting event or during a band concert at the school. But if people will apologize in email and in phone calls and say, I'm sorry for interrupting, and the first thing I say is, no, I got this job because of the thousands of times I knocked on someone's door during dinner time uninvited, and they opened the door and we had conversations just like this. So please, don't hurt your cause by attacking us. Don't think that just because we don't agree, it doesn't mean we don't listen. Mr. Campbell here is a fine man. I am honored to serve with him and serve the same ward. We have disagreed tonight, and we will disagree again. But that does not mean he does not hear me. It does not mean I do not hear him. We don't consider each other's words. It doesn't mean that I think he's not working. When the week before the Beatty Farm vote, I spent 30 hours just on that one issue. I logged it. Someone asked my wife, how do you hope the Beatty Farm vote goes? She says, I don't care. I just want it to be over so I can have my husband back. But we signed up for this. Thank you for letting me say that, and I'm glad I was able to get through it without breaking down. But let's talk about the issue at hand. We've heard about changes in retail. Sometimes I've heard some comments, I don't know if it's for or against. We've talked about how there's a death of big box retail, and you don't have to be a retail expert to know that. You just have to read the newspapers. You have to see what businesses are struggling, which brands are struggling, which brands are thriving. And I can tell you that the way the market is reacting to the specialization of internet sales is specialization within the retail environment. People aren't opening 100,000 square foot buildings selling 1,000 products. They're opening smaller, more customer-focused stores where they sell a very limited type of product and they provide high level of customer service. Think about the local stores that you go to. You go because of the people and because of the service. This is actually reversing a trend. Mrs. Petrelli mentioned it, the trend. We're moving back to what has worked for generations. It's also what's worked in residential. We're reacting not just to changes in commercial needs, but changes in residential needs. People do ask for this. I remember when Glenbrook was originally broke ground on that someone I worked with who'd moved to Nashville, this was the product she was asking for. She said, I can buy a very nice house in Hendersonville. I can rent an apartment in Hendersonville, and this was more the traditional apartment, not the things like we have at Ventura and things like that. She says, but I can't get high-end residential choices. She says, I'm a single woman. I have this job here. I don't want to maintain a yard. I don't want to maintain a house, but I don't want to live in an apartment among 20-year-olds. So we're reacting to that. We talk a lot of times about how we wish we could make changes for zoning. This is a chance where we can make a change to react. We keep hearing about impact fees and wait for impact fees. We talked about this in general committee when we were going through budgets. Impact fees are not going to be a magic pill. They are not going to cover all of the woes that we have on infrastructure. The way it was described to me, I kind of thought about an airline. It's not the ticket, it's not the cost of the getting on the plane, it's more like the baggage fee. It's going to help us with some of the things, but it's not going to fix everything. And once we have impact fees, you're going to see these type of negotiated and targeted contributions by developers. You'll see them go away because all of a sudden now we're going to have a flat fee or a percentage fee. I support this. And the reason why I support this is it's a down zoning. It's lower impact use. We've heard talk about how it's math and things like that. It's not the developer, it's our own planning staff who can sit down and demonstrate to us how this is a lower impact use as to what is currently what the current zoning is. Lower impact on our infrastructure, less traffic. We're going to have, and that's the choice that we have. We can't always say, we see a picture of green space and we're choosing between this and green space. We're choosing between what's before us being presented and the possibility that 6 months from now that Larry's Super Warehouse Mattress Store decides that they're going to use Hendersonville to launch their new product. And then people are going to come to us and say, why do we have another mattress store? Why do we have another big box store? Why do we have such a large parking lot? That's what we're having to measure. We're having to measure property that's already zoned for commercial for a higher impact use and the ability to react to changes in the commercial and residential market to give something that's going to give a higher, better product to our community, meet the needs, and have less impact upon the community. When we hear concerns about more green space, they're meeting the requirements that we have on the books for green space. And I would encourage any member of this board, if they have concerns about any property not giving enough green space, then what we really need to have is a conversation about changing the city requirements. Because as long as anyone's meeting the requirements we have on the books, we have a hard time asking for more. I support this, and I encourage you to do the same. Thank you.
Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. Are we still on the amendment, or?
Oh, we're still on the main motion. We've amended the amendment, and we accepted the amendment.
I did? I did that?
Well, you had some help.
Okay. Well, okay. I was going through this amendment here, got sidetracked, but the bottom line to me, and I started from the very beginning, was I was concerned about 297 high-density townhomes and condos. That was my main object of the whole thing. We know that commercial is a done deal. That was voted on years ago. We're not going to discuss commercial. But the amendment that I'm looking at, we're talking about money from the developer to pay to improve forest retreat going out to Alexander. No, we're not. No, to their property line, and then on the side they're going to fix the shoulder. I think the sidewalks. Not going to do nothing to the street, right? It's just a sidewalk going on out to Alexander Place. Is that right, sponsor?
Mr. Brown, that's
Hold it. You
I'm
need to
sorry.
answer this one.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
Please repeat the question. I was not paying attention.
I didn't mean to wake you up.
I wasn't, I was babbling about something.
2-foot shoulder on each side.
Once they leave their property line going out to Alexander Place,
Yes, sir.
all they're going to do is the sidewalk, not the road itself.
No, sir. They're going to be paving, widening the shoulders, painting and striping the road, and fixing everything from their place to the city limits and/or county line. The sidewalks will go to the entrance of Alexander.
Where is that in your amendment? I don't see that. Maybe I'm blind.
No, sir, I would never say that. I would say number 2, the
You better
developer
not.
will provide said dollars to the city to pay the cost of building a sidewalk from Andrews Run westward to Alexandria Place on the south side of Forest Retreat Road. B, the cost of building 2-foot shoulders on each side of Forest Retreat Road from the developer's property line westward to the city limit. And, I lost my track here, and above
See, paving, yeah.
paving. It's item number 2, section number 2.
Okay.
See it?
I said I'm blind in one eye, but that's okay.
Can't see how the other is.
Well, getting back to my point before I woke you up.
Well, I won't live that down for a while.
We still got to deal with the high density, 297 residential townhomes and condos, right? That's going to be there, and that's going to affect the traffic. It's going to not only going to affect Forest Retreat, it's going to affect Hillwood, going up like you're going to the hospital or whatever. That road is terrible. I mean, it is pitiful. I don't understand why we can't. Now, I know Forest Retreat needs attention right through that area. Now, is he going on to the county line?
Yes,
Am I
sir.
right in that?
Yes, sir.
Was he's going to meet what the county has done coming in, right?
If you're asking me, the only thing that we can control as a board and what's in this amendment is to the city limits or county line. Past that,
Well, I realize, Alderman Brown, that was I want to be sure I understand. They're going on out to the county line, over the hill, at the, I think it's called Spearbont Apartments subdivision?
Spear Point.
Spear Point, yeah. That's the county
Cross
line
Point?
right there.
Cross Point.
That's where they're going.
well, to wherever the county line is,
Well,
that's
that's
right
it.
after Alexandria Place. As you go down the hill a little bit, there's a sign there. End of city limit, I think. That's where they're gonna go to. That's where we're gonna go to.
But this amendment says nothing about any other street, Hillwood, nothing like that. Right?
sir.
Right?
Correct.
Right?
You asking me? No, sir, it doesn't say anything about Hillwood.
Just
Forest
answer the
Retreat
question,
only.
right or wrong?
You're right.
It's not addressing Hillwood at all, which
No,
is
sir.
just as important to me where I live as to going the other way. And I'm not being critical of going out Hunts Lane, don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to get a point across how it's going to affect old Jim and my neighbors, okay? Thank you, Mayor.
I understand. You're the one that mentioned Forest Retreat a while ago, wasn't me.
I want to help clarify something here, Keith.
He's just like,
I believe that the city limits ends at Cross Point, but I want to make sure it includes Forest Retreat Road.
Yeah, that does.
What's the question, Mayor?
Okay, it's not on one side, it's not on the south side of Forest Retreat Road. Forest Retreat Road is in the city to Cross Point, is that right?
Yeah, or close,
Okay.
close to that point, it's about a half mile.
It is too.
Cross Point is the city limits.
It ends at the final property lines shown on the plat for Alexandria Place.
It includes the road, the
It
pavement.
it includes the road, but I don't believe it goes all the way to Cross Point.
it doesn't go all the way to Cross Point.
Right.
Okay, okay. I appreciate that. Alderman Stamper, Alderman Waters, thank you.
I was actually in before.
I'm through, thank you.
Wait, really? He hasn't spoken yet on this one.
All right, well, I haven't really, I've asked a couple of questions, but haven't made my long presentation, long speech, and all the research that I've performed. As has been mentioned, a lot of us up here that come to different conclusions still do a lot of research. Man, I've made notes everywhere tonight. In Big Station Camp, I think there was a issue about what's county, what's Gallatin, what's Hendersonville. At least this one, we're not butting up against Gallatin. I guess I'll start with the lawsuit and why I was so particular about the language, because we got burned by your company. Ken, I know you weren't there and weren't involved in that, but we sued. We had to sue. We had meetings in there, when the executive sessions, to talk about getting everybody to do what they said they were going to do, holding their feet to the fire. We had an issue today even, not related to the this project, or it was somewhere else. But again, when you start construction, making sure you detain properly, those types of issues. And what's frustrating about that one, I'm sorry for the aside, was that was the whole issue when we allowed that 96 home development, was said, don't flood our folks in Alexandria, Autumn Creek, and it was Fountain Brook that got hit. I heard that's been corrected, and I appreciate that. We're not, the most frustrating thing for an alderman is to assure someone that we're going to do what we say we're going to do as a city and then not come through for them. And it happens a lot. And it makes you feel like a liar, and it makes you feel embarrassed, and it makes you feel ashamed and angry. And I felt all those things when I saw those videos. When we the word I can say, put the screws to the developer here, we want to be very clear in our language. I liked this project a year ago. I think it's a product that, for whatever reason, the market desires. I'll jump to impact fees. One of the aldermen who said that they liked the project, thought it was a good project. Clearly, this alderman does not like the developer at all, and said something to the tune of, give us $1 million. Well, they're giving us $925,000 according to our own internal estimates from our Department of Public Works that we can rely upon. But went down to Brentwood, and I don't have the research with me, but I can get it for you, to find out, okay, because the thing was, let's just put this on hold until we get our impact fees. But a similar type of development in Brentwood would bring in about $750,000 in impact fees. And I don't know if we're going to come in like Brentwood or lower. I'm not sure. We don't have a utility district. We do have an adequate facilities tax that the county requires folks to pay. Schools have been mentioned, those types of things. So I doubt that our impact fees would come anywhere close to those types of numbers. All that to say is there's no conceivable way that if we sat and waited and we're just going to charge you whatever our impact fee study comes back, that it would be anywhere close to what this developer is willing to do. It comes down to, I wrote down a thing, what are you willing to give up to forego 297 homes? That was the big issue at this board, was the high density. Now it's under 300. It's 297 homes. But I dare say that if they were willing to fix all of our intersections in the city and put curb and gutter in every place in the city, we'd allow that. We would probably pass this. We'd say, okay, we can take 297 homes if they're willing to fix all of our infrastructure issues. I would be hard pressed to find an alderman that could say, okay, I'm not going to allow these 297 homes. The alderman that spoke from Ward 2 just now referenced studies about the impact of traffic. What we're saying is we do not believe the studies, we do not believe our own internal experts that say this is a lower impact. Impervious space on $100,000 big box would be that parking lot would be crazy. So what we're looking at is, we all like the green spaces is now. There's no impervious space there. But it's already zoned for something that's going to have impervious space. Sorry, I'm jumping around. It's late, but thinking about 386, and I keep coming back to: are we a bedroom community? Or are we a community that wants to live, work, and play in Hendersonville and bring jobs to Hendersonville? Because it seems like, depending on which side of an issue you are, you argue it either way and say, well, 386 is a mess and all this, going downtown. And I'm not saying that everybody can find jobs here, but we need to create the environment where we have jobs available. And the big box stores are gone. And I dare say these little boutiques and these types of things are going to employ better salaried jobs. They're going to bring more jobs. There's no doubt that the economic benefit to this project is significantly better than what's currently zoned for. Would we get any of this stuff? I mean, widening a forest retreat, all the sidewalk. Would we get any of that if we just voted this down? We get none of that. We do nothing, we're going to get nothing. We're just going to stay put. And all the problems we keep hearing about that are there, they're not going to get any better. So are we willing to get the money to make these things work? It just doesn't come out of thin air, but here we have a developer that's willing to do these things. Let's see, check off all these things. That's really about all I want to. I want to close on this because I'm going to vote for this. I like this project. I really like these amendments. They have done. They've been over backwards. They did the first time too. They made a lot of adjustments to the first plan, and it got voted down. This time they're saying, okay, what are your concerns? We're going to do everything conceivable to meet those concerns, to help you get not back in front of the curve, but it's moving us in the right direction. Those that don't like the high density, yes, you're going to have to put up with 297 homes, but the strides that we're making on infrastructure based on what these developers are going to do, what they have to do, is putting us so far ahead of where we are today that it's a hard one to shoot down. I was told that my vote on Beatty Farm cost me one election, and this vote's going to cost me another. And we'll see. That remains to be seen. But it's the right thing to do. And at the end of the day, you got to do what you think's best. And I respect those that vote a different way, as I always do. But to me, turning down this, the first issue that came up in 2010 when I said I'm going to run for alderman, and I talked to my neighbors in Alexandria Place, because I lived on Camden Court, they said, get us a sidewalk from Alexandria Place to Glenbrook. I said, all right, I was running for office. That's the first thing I'm going to do. I learned better than make campaign promises. It's been 8 years. I wore out your predecessor, wore him out. He stopped emailing me back and returning my calls. I begged and I pleaded. I've been to your committee, Alderman Skidmore. Sorry, Senior Alderman from Ward 1. I've been to your committee and begged y'all for these sidewalks. We couldn't get, it's on the list. We don't have the money. I know why we don't have them, but it's my job to advocate for my ward. And yeah, my ward doesn't like, they see 297 homes, they say, well, Stamper's, he's voting for high density again. Here he goes. This is the right thing for Ward 6. I believe the infrastructure improvements to Alexandria Place, to Forest Retreat, and this other money that can be used for other places that might be impacted, like Hillside, is worth it to me. And I encourage you to vote yes on this. Thank you.
Alderman Stamper, thank you. Alderman Brown.
I believe I'm last in the queue. I would thank
You
you all
are.
for listening to all of us. I would thank you all for good, hard conversation. I thank Vassland for being willing to do. I think our staff for working hard, and for you all to be here, for your input that you gave tonight. And I call the question. Let's vote.
We have a motion to call the questions, even though we have 2 other people in the queue. Do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
We have a second for the motion to call the question. We have a motion, a second. This requires a 2/3 vote to cut off discussion. Please signify, we're going to have to call the roll for this, to go ahead and vote on this and have no more discussion.
Thank you.
Okay, call your name, please say aye if you want to cut off discussion. Say no if you want to continue.
Brown?
Aye.
Campbell? No. Cunningham?
Yes.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Frost?
Yes.
Gilly?
Yes.
Petrelli?
No.
Skidmore?
No.
Sprouse?
No.
Stamper?
No.
Waters?
Yes.
Woodcock?
Yes to cut off?
Yes.
Clary?
No. That fails 7-6, and it required a 2/3 vote. Alderman Petrelli. Oh, I'll get you. There we go.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it very brief. I just wanted to make a clarification point to the senior alderman in Ward 2 regarding green space. I just wanted you to know that it's not fantastical thinking that we can ask for more green space, and I realize that there are codes governing it, which is why, since this project has been in the works for several months now, that we can't increase it. However, just like impact fees, it's coming, and it's going to be coming up in a planning commission conversation probably in a couple of months, and it's going to involve different ways to increase green space by not letting a retention or a detention pond be required green space. Further, I've asked for, in lieu of fees, extra fees, everything be outlined in packets so that when somebody says, hey, we'll put in 50 feet of sidewalk, or in lieu of 50 feet of sidewalk, we'll give you $100, or in lieu of, we don't go and take $100 in lieu of fee, because the in lieu of fee should be more than the cost of the work. It should be an inconvenience. If you don't want to do the improvement work, it should cost you more. I just wanted to clarify that point. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Petrelli. Here's our amendment that has some handwriting on it. Also has been amended with the difference in the access on the Forest Retreat Road. We have nobody else in the queue. All those in favor, when Kay calls your name, please signify by saying aye. Again, this is our only reading for Resolution 2018-24 to approve a revised final development plan for Glenbrook North. Kay, go ahead.
Brown?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Cunningham?
No.
Frisbee?
No.
Frost?
Yes.
Gilly?
Yes.
Petrelli?
No.
Skidmore?
Yes.
Sprouse?
Yes.
Stamper?
Yes.
Waters?
No.
Woodcock?
Yes.
Clary.
No. That passes 8-5. Next on our agenda, we have Resolution 2018-34. This is a resolution authorizing the transfer of $73,760 within the police department budget for purchase of mobile video equipment. Alderman Brown. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of accepting Resolution 2018-34, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Our other agenda items were completed earlier. We have a motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously. Let's see who voted for it. Jeff, I'm turning off.